Hello everyone, I am finally here with the painting for Mirko Pop-Up Parade L-size figure completed. I was too excited to paint this figure actually. After I had unboxed it, I could not wait to paint it. So yeah, I made a few modifications in the figure to I would say emphasize on the muscular part of her figure more. Simply put, I would say that Mirko is always looked, or rather is viewed in this bodybuilder kind of light. So I wanted to maintain that aspect of her character. So yeah, honestly, the figure is really amazing. It's I have to say that the size is awesome, and given the price point, it is really nice to have something at that size, especially for Mirko, because there aren't as good figures for Mirko. I would say that my personal favorites are the Ichiban Kuji, Mirko, and this one. The rest are not as good. So yeah. So I did record myself sculpting. So basically I ended up removing a little bit of material from the front and the back to add a little more detailing to her abs, and the second was the back. Unfortunately, I realized, like, once I had dismantled the figure, I realized that they did not put as much detail into her back. Like, if you look at it, it looked like she was missing a back. Like, there was no muscle definition, there was no there was no volume to the back, which kind of it I prefer that the back has volume, because at the end of the day we are going for a figure which is supposed to be muscular. So I decided to add some volume to her back, and in that process I realized that her shoulder width was also quite less. So I had to make a few changes there and make her shoulder a little more wide, which I believe actually adds to the figure. Like it makes it look a lot better. So yeah, those were that was all the change that I did to this particular figure. And it's really nice, the pose is nice, so you get to, like, I don't know, you can pose it really well. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But yeah, this figure is really nice. I was pretty excited while painting it, and even the result itself turned out to be really nice. Yeah, the sculpting itself was a little tricky, but that is the case with figures like this most of the time, so it's not really that big of a deal. I did have to rework her uniform a little bit because of the increasing shoulder length, and some of the sculpting work was done off camera, especially balancing out the shoulders to make them look a little more proper, I would say. So yeah, now we ended up with a Mirko that actually looks a lot more like a bodybuilder, I would say, like someone who works out, because she has the wide lats and the abs are more defined. So I would say that it ended up looking really nice. At least I was happy with the result, and then I decided to paint it. So as usual, especially with Mirko, I start with the base paint. I prepare the paint for the darkest tone and spray it using the airbrush. So that way I have the darkest part covered initially. Like, that is the first step of painting Mirko, particularly Mirko, because the other figures I think I prefer, okay, it depends from figure to figure, but generally I prefer having a middle tone, then I paint the dark and the highlights. But in this one I go from dark to the light, so the shadows are painted on first, and it kind of works out really well, especially for characters like Mirko or characters that are tanned. I don't know if it's a tan. I would say her, especially given the color mixing that I did, I would say it's more of a chocolatey brown kind of shade, or I don't know, you can compare it to milk chocolate maybe. So yeah, that is something that I do differently when I paint Mirko specifically, and the rest is pretty much the fun work. Like her leggings are purple, which I love painting purple because of how nicely it turns out. And as usual, I do mix in red with the purple in order to get the particular shade that you're seeing here. Otherwise, I believe that the purple almost turns out to be blue. Like it looks blue in the camera, and even in, at least to my eyes, they look too bluish, which I'm not a big fan of. I prefer having it a little more towards the red. So that is why I'll take purple and then I'll add a little more blue. I'll take the purple and add a little more red to it, which gives it the shade that you're looking at right now. Then other than that, yeah, the rest of the painting for Mirko is not really as complex, although I did decide to go with different shades, especially for her hair. So I painted the rest of her uniform and everything where the white parts were supposed to be. It was painted with a combination of like bluish gray, where there's a very little amount of blue. So just, to make a variation. Otherwise, sometimes just having straight up gray kind of makes it a little dull. So that is something I usually do, and maybe if you are painting, you could do that as well. Add a little bit of blue or some other color just to add a little variation in the shade of gray. So yeah, the uniform used a shade of bluish gray, and the hair I did make a mixture of I think it was of course we had gray, and on top of it we had yellow and a little bit of brown, natural brown, to give it the shade that you'll see the result. So that way the hair stands out from the rest of the uniform, kind of makes it appear different. So yeah, that was something I decided to do differently, and it actually turned out to be really nice. So I think I will continue doing that with the figures if I paint Mirko figures in the future, which I believe I will, because this is a very good figure, and I don't think I'll stop at one figure, but it also depends on if I'll be able to get my hands on another figure like this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, the only other thing that remains is the golden parts of her uniform, which is like the logo and the 2 buttons on her leggings. So those are pretty standard paintings, so it's kind of not really that big of a deal. And yeah, that's about it. The detailing is as usual, it's done in black, and the only thing is that yeah, her hair does hide the back. So even though like the back has been sculpted to add more detail and volume, it still is hidden by the hair, which is kind of a bummer, but honestly I don't mind it. I don't mind it being hidden. It was fun to sculpt the back and paint it that way. So yeah, that's about it for this video. This one is a long one, if I say so myself. I think it's around 14-15 minutes, which is longer than the usual videos that I upload. But yeah, I wanted to put both the sculpting and the painting part in one video, as there was not as much sculpting involved, so wouldn't have been enough to add a separate video. So yeah, And oh yeah, one more thing, the highlights that you see on the clothes and the hair, they are not directly white. Again, like while adding the highlights, that was still like very light color of the same tone. Basically, I added a lot more white and a little bit of the previous color just to maintain the tone. It is not direct white, which I believe, I don't know. This time I decided to do that just because my white was drying up pretty quickly. I don't know what happened there, but maybe it's the temperature, maybe something else. So sometimes what happens is white is a bit tricky to apply as it is. So it is, I would encourage you to just make it a shade, like add a little bit of another color to, you know, make it proper. If you're working with Gaia notes, maybe other colors don't work this way, maybe they work better. I don't know. I prefer Gaia notes. I work with Gaia notes all the time. So yeah, that's all for this video. It's a long one. If you like, you can stay and watch the rest of the painting process, and if not, you can skip to the end of the video where I have the 360 presentation of this figure. It's a really nice figure, and after the sculpting and painting, it looks a lot better, I would say. I actually prefer this. Like I'm very satisfied with how she turned out to be, especially with the decision to increase the shoulder width and add more definition to her abs. So yeah, I'm really happy with this one. I hope you like it as much as I do, and if you have any questions, leave a comment. If you like the video, leave a like. There were some comments asking me to go a little more in detail about the skin tone preparation, so maybe my next video will be discussing that a little more in detail. Maybe I'll try to mix it on video and we can see how that turns out. I'm still thinking what to do about it. So yeah, let's see what happens. Look forward to the next video. Until then, bye bye.